Cheers! Cheers! Cheers to another night, another evening, another serving, another slick, oily coating on the top of all that is pure and good in this world. To your health and sanity, sir.
Yeah, I prefer to not have sanity.
Mm.
I prefer to be crazy in a crazy world.
That's
The only
why I was
way it
drinking
seems
taint.
normal.
I was drinking taint to your memory, good sir. Thanks everybody for being here. It is Light Tower Podcast. It's another week of madness. It's another dose of madness. We're dosing you with tainty goodness. Straight from the Dark One's bunghole to your ear. From the Dark One's bunghole, your ears. Or eyes. I mean, hey, look at the timing there. How's it going, Waffles? I am Josh. I'm your sort of Hale. I like to talk about Black Tower podcast things, Wheel of Time things. It's wheelie timey things because it's a Wheel of Time show. I messed up that whole intro. I got excited about the Dark One's bunghole and messed it all up. So you take it away, Andrew.
I'm Andrew. I'm the Bijan Mahale, and I've just been as soon as I hit go live, my brain immediately was like, you don't need words anymore.
You don't. It's true.
So it's weird.
It's
but
like
what
a
I
brain.
do need is apparently Dubby and creatine. So,
oh yeah, brother.
yeah. Look in the show notes or description below. There's a 10% off code for your jitterless, artificial, flavorless, crashless energy powder from w.gg. Use code BTP for 10% off. Fantastic. It's delicious. They have a ton of flavors, a ton of bottles, little merch things you can go and get to if you want to do all that fun stuff. It's good shit.
It's true.
It's true. It works. It works.
It's all true. It's all true. I'll never forget when we started doing the Dubby, and I was like, let's buy a couple barrels just to test it out. And then we tried it, and we were like, holy shit, this is good.
Yeah. It tastes good. It works. Maybe it'll give me the mental focus I need to make it through this episode.
I hope so, too, because I need you to be focused for tonight's episode because it's going to be nice and chewy.
Oh, I can't do the Chewbacca thing. I was gonna do it, but I can't. So
chewy, as in we get to chew on it.
Isn't that also like a subscription service for like stuff for dogs and cats?
For doggies, for your puppies, for your puppies.
I have brought you a toy for your puppies.
They're going to take care of your puppies. Make sure everybody is happy.
That created like a visceral reaction, I feel, for a second there. What? I already told them that.
Nuh-uh.
Uh-huh. You looked in the wrong chat.
Yeah, you did.
You fucking
Shut
dingus.
Shut up.
Go!
I was testing you. I got it on the wrong one. Sorry. Gosh, I was trying to help.
Wrong.
Trying to help out.
Wrong chat.
No. It's cool. Let's see how it is. That'll confuse some people.
When you're having a threesome in the dark and he starts spreading your cheeks, Peter, it's me. Oh man. YouTube user.
Oh yeah, so Dubby, YouTube user thinks I'm a dingus. Well, you know what, YouTube user, I'm rubber.
At least you're using YouTube instead of YouTube using you, so that's good.
Whatever I say bounces off me and sticks to you.
Anyway, w.gg, they got a bunch of different flavors. It's really good stuff. It is a nice little 1 scoop powder that you add into like a shaker bottle, like 8-12 ounces of water, just like you see with like most protein mixes, creatine mixes, that kind of stuff. It dissolves really well. It's not super gritty or anything like that. And it works. It helps with mental focus. It gives you a little burst of energy. It's designed for gamers overall, and you know how much you have to do to give gamers some energy. So
Yep.
it works, and there's no crash after. There's no weird ucky feeling after. Uh, you could probably drink it all day and be absolutely fine. I don't know that they say that, and I'm not officially saying that, but I'm not a doctor. So if you take your medical advice from me, that's on you.
If you take your medical advice from Andrew, this episode is definitely for you, because tonight we've got a very fun topic. But before we get into that, Andrew, do you want to maybe give us the spoiler warning?
Yeah, I can hit the button. Here's the button.
Welcome to the Black Tower. This is your spoiler condom. If you have not read the complete works of Robert Jordan, The Wheel of Time, books 1 to 14, and also New Spring, Big Bad Book of White Art, and the companion, you are at risk of being spoiled. Spoilers come with side effects. These side effects may include headache, nausea, vomiting, death, dizziness, vaginal or penile eruptions and ejaculations, dysentery, cardiac arrhythmia, mild heart explosions, varicose veins, darkened stool, darkened souls, more vomiting, arthritis, hemorrhoids or diabetes, virginity, mild discomfort, vampirism or werewolfism, gender inequality for the whole planet, spontaneous dental hydroplosion, sugar highs, even more vomiting, or maybe just a mild rash. If you cannot deal with these side effects, please leave now, for fear of spoilers. You have been warned.
Man,
Our spoilers are the people that made our spoilers are incredible, and our spoilers work incredibly well, especially in the audio format.
I just think it's a little crazy that the gender pay gap is all because people are getting spoiled on the Wheel of Time.
Yeah. When you spoil,
So if you're someone who spoiled the series for someone, yeah, that's on you.
actually, most things are on you. Most things are your fault. So, global warming. You thought it was cow farts and
Nope.
cars? No,
It's Wheel of Time spoilers.
you spoiling the Wheel of Time for people. What a deal.
Okay. So, Andrew,
Yes,
what
Josh.
does Saidin and the Ways have in common?
I mean, the Ways were born of Saidin after
Right.
Saidin was tainted. So then the Ways were inherently tainted.
So would you say the Dark One's taint is what they have in common?
Yeah, it's like when a kid is first being potty trained and learning how to wipe their butt, and they haven't figured out the aiming perfectly right, so some of it gets on their hand, but they didn't notice it first. So then they like walked around the house and put their hands on the walls, and you're like, what are these weird streaks on the walls? And why does it smell like shit? Yeah, the walls are the Ways and the shit is the taint, and you're the parent who just found it. I don't have kids, but I assume that is exactly how it's happened to people.
Well, here's the thing. That is a valid scenario if you don't teach your kids to wash their hands.
True. I was thinking the kid just like got like they're potty trained enough where you're not sitting there watching them the whole time, and they just get up and like run out of the bathroom.
That happens too, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if they're gonna put crayons on the wall, what makes you think they're not gonna freaking
Gonna
put
put
shit
poop
on the wall? Yeah.
Well, there's always that weird kids in the bathrooms. I feel like that's happened at least once in every elementary school.
I think that's happened in like fucking every bathroom. Even
That's what I'm saying.
even as an adult, these fucking buffaloes just shit in the bathroom and man,
No,
if you're an
so
adult and you still can't manage to fucking not splash all over the fucking seat,
geeks in the house.
then you either need to see a doctor or you just need to go home every time you need to use the restroom.
So
Nobody should have to wipe your piss off the seat, especially in a professional setting.
So
Fucking disgusting.
we have confirmation on this one. This was theorized for a long time and it was finally confirmed, but that the creation of the ways were created by men who could channel post tainting of Saidin, right? And they would, because the Ogier gave them refuge in the steading to try and stave off the madness.
Well, look, we're on brand. Look here, boss man. You can let me go home, or you can smell it as I shit my pants.
I mean, look, there's some.
If it lets me go home early, I'm not above shitting my pants. It's going to be a really uncomfortable ride, but
but I'll get to that sweet post work nap sooner.
Yeah.
No, but men who could channel would stay in the steading during the breaking to try and stave off the madness, right? And then, as a token of gratitude, they started collaborating and working on a traveling network system that would allow Ogier to travel from steading to steading. And I also suspect that this was to make it easier. I think they were looking for alternatives to travel so that they could leave the steading, but they could like travel to other steading. I theorized
it was to help the Ogier.
Yeah,
because the Ogier would go out into like. Oh, this was your theory when you read it. Okay, my bad.
Yeah, my theory was always that after it was confirmed that the men who could channel did it, I was always thinking that they were also probably, because they didn't want to live the rest of their lives and steading Shanghai. They wanted to be able to visit their buddy in steading Sofu. So they were like, cool, we've got the Waygates, we've got the ways, and we jumped up in there and we can now travel between steading. That exposes them to Saidin for a little bit. Can, as long as they don't channel while they're out, they can travel to other steading now. And then they were like, yeah, Ogier, this is a gift for you, so you guys can travel between steading as well. But I think that there was a personal benefit to that.
So, thought that you just gave me. What if
I like it when I do that.
The original thing that is now known as Mosh and Shen, or the Black Wind, what if it was originally not a bug, but a feature of the ways to dissuade the tainted male channelers from channeling in the ways when they could actually access and channel? Like a built-in thing that would swoop in and be like, no, like a guardian of sorts, so that they didn't like go crazy and channel in the ways and destroy the ways. And now it's like a corrupted like guardian, or like.
Well, and what do we know? What do we know about gateways? Not the Waygates, but actual just gateways. Shadowspawn can't travel through them. They die instantly. Yeah. But the ways are now things to maneuver around quickly, and it would be a very strategically tactical advantage if Ogier, or not Ogier, if Trollocs and Murdral and Halfmen or in Greymen were using this to get around quickly. Like if they just captured them Like that would be a significant threat to the rest of the world. So if they had Majin Shin as a guardian to guard against Shadow Spawn, or as he who comes with the wine, is that it was a guide. I mean, that's kind of interesting. I like to think that there's a different view of how those things work. That's really cool. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I like it more than just saying like, oh, this is just a parasite that grew in the ways from the taint. I mean, I kind of get it because the series already has like a kind of precursor for that, or not precursor. Fuck, what am I trying to think of? Precedent for that. There we go. With more death and Eridol or Shadow Logoth. But I like that
Right.
more, that like as something yes, just like this. Clippy has gone rogue. We all wondered
There you
where
go.
Clippy
Machin
went.
Shin is Clippy.
That's why we
It's
don't see
corrupted
Clippy
Clippy.
anymore. He left our mortal coil to wander the ways. But
He's
yeah, I
Darth
would think
Clippy
you'd have
now.
that because I mean, you had the signpost stones in the ways to point the direction for the people that could read them at the time, which assumably was, the Ogier and the people that made them.
Yeah.
But if you're in a setting expressly so that you don't channel because it will cause you to go more insane, and you're already using something that just makes it where it's impossible for you to channel, and now you're in a space where you can channel, you can't block off that ability to channel, it would make sense to have something in there to either dissuade people from channeling or to potentially work to protect the ways from somebody channeling that shouldn't be, or trying to do something negative. I mean, you're literally in the middle of a phase of history where people are raising mountains where vast oceans once stood or sat or whatever.
Yeah.
Mountains stand, oceans sit. I don't fucking know how that
Yeah,
works.
whatever. We get what you're trying to
But
say.
you're literally changing the topography of the world. You got people turning entire cities into glass. Like, you don't want like some insane channeler just standing in the middle of the ways, bale firing every direction he can.
Yeah, well, and I think that's an important piece of context to take into account too, because by the time when we're nearing the end of the Third Age and when the books start, you've got
That's what I'm going to call it whenever I'm about to turn 40. I'm nearing the end of my Third Age.
You've got basically a crude basic understanding of the one power, right? Like, it's commented, the Forsaken comment numerous times throughout the books that, oh, I can't believe they do things like this. And when Matt, was recovering from his being healed from the dagger, and he's like, dang, I'm starving. And Lanfear's like, yeah, you're going to be starving for the next couple days because of the way they do it. And it's like, it's very clear that the Forsaken have this like significantly more refined understanding of how the power works. And not only are they more powerful, not only can they channel more of the one power at any given time, but they also understand it to a much larger degree. And it's an interesting situation where you've got men who can channel, who are going insane. They're staying in the steading. They're collaborating. They're growing interdimensional travel 100 miles in an hour. Like this is insanely advanced stuff. Fast forward a couple thousand years later, and it's like, I don't know how they did that. It's so far outside the realm of our understanding that we just don't even think about it. Like it would be like trying to explain the Large Hadron Collider and the kind of experiments that they're doing to someone who lived 300 years ago.
No,
Only in reverse, right? Because they had the Large Hadron Collider in the Age of Legends, and then fast forward 3,000 years, and we've had this post-apocalyptic age, or we've had an apocalyptic age. Now we're in a post-apocalyptic where people are building back up, but humanity's ability to, channel and communicate have been hamstrung, and so there's a lot of limitations on what we're able to do.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Maybe a lot of it is like just time dilation type stuff. Maybe that's kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Like when you're in the ways, like time is like severely dilated.
Like stretched along. Yeah. Dilated across space. So they've got, an established amount of space. Because they do talk about the ways going, up and around. And sometimes the little ledge you're on, you could swear was just the ledge that was right below you. And so they definitely have, I think it's just some time and space warpage, really.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's got
depending on who you talk to, like in order to dilate time, you have to dilate space, or it is the dilation of space that causes the dilation of time. Because if you don't have movement across a distance, you don't have time or something. I don't know. Make sure you rewind the movie before you take it back to the store.
That's right. Be kind, rewind. I'm not paying fees.
Yeah. But
not paying fees.
But anyway, so like the original idea for us to talk about the ways for this episode was Saidin, the taint on Saidin has been cleansed. What does that mean for the ways? And this is something that we actually already have an answer on exactly what happened with the ways now that the taint has been cleaned off of Saidin, straight from Robert Jordan. And so he was asked the question after talking about Mosh and Shen and the ways, and whether it was a servant of the Dark One or not, was then asked, would the ways be cleaned with the cleansing of Saidin? And Robert Jordan's answer was no. It's like a bacteria breed. Just by cleaning up the chemicals that cause the bacteria to come into existence, unless it's feeding on those chemicals, you are not going to destroy the bacteria. You simply cut off what helped to create it.
Yeah.
So the taint on the ways isn't going to get any worse.
Which is good.
But
considering by the end of the book what it's all merged with.
I mean, yeah, that's...
We'll get into that later.
Yeah. So, like, just because... So, yeah. Which answers the question, too, why, like... I fucking hate you, Wayne. Oh, God. So, yeah, we're not that fortunate to have a suddenly, like, clear bullet speed, high speed rail line or whatever on steroids available to us. Mosh and Shin is still there. It's still chomping at the bit after Rand, Matt, and Perrin. It still will attack anybody that channels. It will attack anybody, but it notices you faster if you channel.
Right.
The ways are still like dark and you can't really see, which didn't used to be a thing. Everything is still decaying and crumbling away. Like the effect of the infection is still there and will continue. Just the bacteria can't get any stronger. The infection can't get any worse than it is, but the deterioration of the affected area will continue unless, the bacteria is removed.
Here's a thought. Here's a question. And this might be a little off topic for what we want to discuss, but I think it's still valid. So just because the thing that helped create it is not there doesn't mean it's not gone. Like, okay, cool. I can get behind that. The functionality or, programming changes. Cool. We can get behind that. But if we recall, at the end of the story, Perrin and Matt are no longer, right? So, and then of course Rand has his thing, which means he doesn't. So does that? Because now we have essentially what and of course I'm looking at this from a software engineering standpoint, but if it was looking for Perrin the Taviran, and Perrin is no longer a Taviran, does it just come back with a null set? Like, does it just go, I'm looking for Perrin Taviran. Okay, there is no Perrin Taviran. Okay, cool. Like, is it still actively seeking Rand, even though physically Rand has undergone his major alteration?
That one is an interesting question. I think for like Perrin and Matt, I think it wasn't looking for like Perrin the Taviran. I think it was just looking for Perrin.
Okay.
So I don't think
and then like I said,
the changing or lessening of the Taviran factor would change it. But Rand, that's a good question, because if it still follows Rand in Moradin's body, then that means that somehow Moshin Shin it can detect like the soul. Not that it really ever explains how how Moshin Shin is able to track Rand in the overworld, if you want to say, while Moshin Shin is still in the ways. Like, it's not really explained, and mm, yeah, I don't know how that works. I haven't thought about how that works. Well, I mean, I have no fucking idea. So
yeah.
but that would be interesting to find out, because if he does, then that means that Moshin Shin is like even has a little bit more power than we thought to begin with.
Well, and I mean, I imagine Machin Shin is just going to kind of go back to doing what he do, right? Just kind of wandering around, picking off unsuspecting travelers that go through there, unless Machin Shin is actually sustained by the taint on Saidin. Once the taint on Saidin is removed, I know Robert Jordan said it's just like a bacterial growth, but it needs to be sustained on something, right? One would think.
I don't know. I think it also depends on like what Moshin Shin was originally. Is Moshin Shin just a parasite that grew out of the taint, or was it, like we theorized earlier, some kind of a feature of the ways that existed beforehand? I mean, given how long Moshin Shin has still been there, and there hasn't been any travelers through, or very few, or whatever, it's to the point where so many people don't even know that the ways exist, much less how to use them. I think it's reasonable that Moshin Shin doesn't need to be sustained on physical stuff, but I also don't know that, for the last like 1,000 years or whatever that Moshin Shin is, or the last 3,000 years, whatever. I don't know that it's been like feeding on the taint. I mean, I don't know that it needs to feed.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring up as well. Because if it doesn't need to feed, why does it? Right?
Yeah, I mean, it does eat. So Robert Jordan says it eats the souls and memories of the people it catches,
which is very eerily similar to the Aelfin and the Aelfin.
Mm-hmm.
Like except for they feed on emotion, right?
Yeah, they feed on emotions.
But they do have the power to manipulate memory, as we saw with Matt. Those guys are like the ultimate wild card. They can just do anything. So we do a talisman. The men who created Saidin, they grew the gateways or the Waygates. They presented presumably what is a Tirangrial to one of the Ogier elders so that they could grow new Waygates as they found new steading. Which I think is kind of cool that they're just like, yeah, not only are we going to like mess with the fabric of space-time, we're also going to give you a talisman so that anybody who wants to can just also fuck with space-time.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. That's an interesting. I wonder if the corruption on the Waygates or inside the ways exists because it was created with tainted Saidin. Is that talisman used to grow more Waygates? Would that still be susceptible to the or if someone who cannot channel, were to pick up this talisman and go grow a Waygate, would I be introducing a, essentially clean water into the dirty water? I mean, granted, the clean water would be corrupted almost instantly, but
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. It seems that there's an implication that you don't need to channel to use the talisman of growing. Because the male Aes Sedai gifted it to the Ogier, and the Ogier can presumably use it.
yeah.
They just choose not to because they're like, why would we want to go into the ways that are so horrible now?
Yeah, because Elder Haman says that the ways are strictly forbidden. No, it wasn't Elder
after
Haman. What elder was it?
I don't remember which elder it was.
Anyway,
I don't remember, but it was basically all because of Trial.
Yeah,
was the Ogier that was like feasted on by Mach and Shin and came out as a husk. I think he's like the only known example of someone being rescued from the ways after becoming a full victim of Mach and Shin.
Yeah, and since then, well, I know even prior to that, they were like, the ways are strictly forbidden. So when did they lose the talisman of growing? Do we know that?
I don't think they lost it. I think they just don't use it.
They have it. They just refuse to use it.
Yeah, it was gifted to them. I mean, if the talisman of growing is what is used to grow the Waygates, because presumably it was gifted to the Ogier so that they could grow Waygates in the future as they need it. Because I would think that basically the male Aes Sedai created the ways themselves, and the talisman of growing just opens new doors into that space. So it just creates access points to a space already created and existing.
That would make sense.
And somehow linked to the Ogier to be able to do it. I'm trying to look through more. The ways itself was a gift. The talisman of growing was a gift created with threads of earth and spirit. Oh wait, no. Okay, the talismans are used up, so you have to plant the talisman in the ground, and then tree singing activates it, and the talisman itself grows into a Waygate. So every time a Waygate was made, a talisman of growing was used up and became that Waygate.
Oh,
so basically they're just Terangrial that would be activated by tree singing to create a doorway that were just given, like, hey, we made this thing for you. Here's how it works. Here's 50 of these talisman. Plant it like a seed. Tree sing to it, and it'll grow into a Waygate. so that you can do it wherever you need.
And it's reusable.
No.
Okay.
No, I was wrong initially. I thought it was like one talisman that they could go and use, and it would create a Waygate. But no, like the talisman of growing is like a seed that you plant, and it grows into the Waygate.
Okay. So they might not even have any more. It might just be they're used.
Yeah, they may be. I mean, I would think that because the Ogier live so long and are so patient, that they would use them sparingly, especially
Yeah.
after the male Aes Sedai were kind of gone, and they're like, well, we only have a finite number left. And then at the point where they were sitting there like, oh shit, like something weird's happening in the ways, because to them the ways going dark would be like the same thing as you getting a new toy, and then like 3 weeks later the toy breaks. In terms of like how they view their lifespan,
Yeah.
in the world around them. So, and especially after trial, or however you say the name, Paraol, whatever, that happened, they would probably ban like creating more Waygates, just so
So
that they, like wouldn't have to deal with it. I mean, I would assume that somewhere they still have them, and it's like hidden away and like protect it much in the same way that they're fucking the book they have, the book of translation.
yeah. So let's theorize this then. Well, I think it could be too, because there's a Waygate outside of Stedding, and at the time that these talismans were gifted to the Ogier, the male Aes Sedai were basically dying out, and it was towards the end of the breaking, and many of the Stedding were lost still, and so they had these talisman that would allow them to connect the new Stedding to the ways so that they didn't lose them again. I think was the ultimate goal.
Well, so we know that, I don't know if the Ogier still have any, but we know for sure that one talisman of growing still exists, because Elaine and Avendesora find it in the kin storeroom.
And that's what I was just getting ready to say, is that I think it's very likely where you were going with that, where they were, very patient, not too hasty. And it could also be nobody knew how many Stedding there were. There could be 10 Stedding, there could be 100 Stedding. So how do you know how many talismans of growing to make? So you just make a whole shit ton and hope you've got the right ones. And then, if you find 100 Stedding, great. If you find 10 Stedding, well, now you got 90 talismans of growing that you can use for whatever you want. But like you said, we do know there's one in existence. There could be more stashed around the Ogier Stedding. And the more I think about that, the more I like that. I think you're right. I think, shit, they could probably have 100 of those things, and nobody would ever know, because they're not going to use them, and they're not exactly forthcoming with their knowledge and understanding of things either.
Yeah, and they'd be useless to anybody that's not Ogier.
Yeah, that
they only respond to tree singing or the right song.
Well, and even Loyal says that he's one of the most talented tree singers in an age.
Apparently, Elder of Mon hoards them.
And he even talks about how when they find that bed that's made out of sung wood, that he would never even attempt something so big, because he's not that skilled. And he's one of the most talented singers of an age. So it's very possible that the talisman of growing is just worthless to them now. Like, can't even use it.
I don't know. I mean, I would think they still could, but probably would take a lot longer and be a lot harder.
That's what she
Time makes things long and hard.
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe.
Because you
Sometimes. I
can't
don't know.
sing to it good.
Yeah. So with that, with all of this being like said and done, do you think that there is a way to repair or restore the ways? Or do you simply have to let them decay and disappear? Because there existed a
Yeah.
time where the ways did not exist and had to be built. So if you go by the cycle of time, they have to go away.
That's a really great question.
Or do they go the route of like horse-drawn carriages where they're not used anymore because they're obsolete? Because they're obsolete, they're allowed to decay and disappear.
Yeah. Well, and think about it like this too. Say, halfway through the middle of the Fourth Age, 1500 to 2000 years later.
Loyal, grow us a Waygate.
Oh.
Fucking Loyal's a Huck Tour. Spit on that thing.
And that's the talisman of growing. Oh, God.
Jeez, how long does Ogier head last?
Asking the important questions.
What exactly would be premature ejaculation in the mind of an Ogier? Like,
I don't want to know.
we were only
Andrew.
3 hours in and I finished. I was so embarrassed.
Oh, God.
Pardon me. I apologize for having a hasty penis.
If you go far enough into the future, eventually all the pathways and platforms and everything will be gone, right? They will decay, they will erode, they will be gone. And even if at that point in time you opened up a Waygate and tried to step through, you would fall into the abyss, right? You'd fall forever. You'd be out there with that gray man and that Aiel just falling forever in the infinite void. The interesting question then becomes, if you are to lead a research team to correct this, right? If you want to cleanse the taint on the Waygate, got our Loki moment here. I've been falling for 30 minutes. How would one go about that? Now, I believe there is a way to do it, right? Because Robert Jordan does a really great job of giving us a story where people go, nope, you can't do that. It's impossible. Nope, you can't do that. It's impossible. Nope, you can't do that. It's impossible. And then, like, 2 books later, someone does it. But the cleansing of Saidin, they did that with healing, gentling, and stilling. They did that with creating of Tirong Grial. They did. There's just so many things that they were like, nope, that's impossible. You can't do it anymore. We can't do that. It's not a thing. And so if someone says, oh, you can't cleanse the ways, I immediately go, yeah, we couldn't do a bunch of things that we can do at the end of the books. Now, how would one go about that? That becomes the question, because here's the other part. The corruption or the taint in the ways is different than the taint on Saidin. The taint on Saidin was like an oil slick over a clear pond, right? That's the most common analogy that people use. The ways, I mean, I guess you could have some sort of quantum whatever that you could clean in the same way that you'd just clear an oil slick off the top. But I feel like it's actually saturated, right? It's not a clear, clean, uncorrupted bit that's just covered by corruption. It is straight up saturated. It is the corruption or the taint is woven into the very fabric of that space-time bubble. So to clean that, I feel like you'd almost have to know how the ways were grown and use the one power only as a clean source to try and grow another ways over or in between the ways. And you'd have to probably kind of do it all at once to wipe out the entire infection all at once. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I think I get what you're putting down.
Like if I've got a hairbrush here, and this hairbrush is tainted, and it's like it's just tainted. It's saturated with pure evil, right?
Yeah, you put it in the wrong hole. Got it.
The bristles tickle my prostate.
You would have to create, like on a quantum level, another brush that layers onto and into this brush, replacing the corrupted pieces with non-corrupted pieces, and then you'd have to wipe out every last bit of taint and corruption to ensure that it doesn't grow back again, like a cancer or like cell.
Oh, okay, I got it. So like removal while simultaneously doing reconstructive surgery. Why does that make me think of like the ship of Theseus?
I don't know. Because
as you replace the rotten parts, like is it still the same thing?
Yeah.
No, I mean, things, I think honestly, now that they have traveling, that they're just gonna be like, well, we don't need to risk the ways because we have traveling. And so it just gets neglected and falls apart, continues to decay. And maybe there is some degree of feeding that Moshinshin requires. And Moshinshin dies. And then the ways crumble and disappear so that they can be remade, in the next turning when people go insane again.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of an interesting point too, because again, as we've discussed with so many other things, it must eventually be destroyed, right?
Yeah.
So maybe when the platform on the other side of the Waygate crumbles and finally decays, maybe the Waygate itself is destroyed because it no longer
the ways ran. Cast them into the fire.
A quantum anchor to both dimensions. So, I mean, it will eventually just collapse in on itself. I would like to think that there was someone who would want to go in and check it out, but it's at best probably going to end up just being sort of an academic pursuit. I wouldn't theorize that the ways are ever actually healed.
Didn't we theorize, like, in a forever ago episode that skimming and the ways exist in the same space?
Yeah.
Just the ways were like physical footpaths for people that couldn't make their own.
Yeah. I think we did.
But that begs the question then, like, if you skim too long, can Moshinshin catch up to you? Because we never get it readdressed, because does Rand skim after Padan Fane interacts with Moshinshin? Or is that a loophole because it's not like a designated opening that Moshinshin can't just wait where Rand opens the skimming platform? Because if Moshinshin is attracted to channeling in the ways, then if you channeled to skim in the ways, wouldn't you
It would
just be
have to
like
be
the entire
something
time
different.
like, yeah?
Yeah, it would have to be something
Because we
different.
know the ways were built with the portal stones as inspiration.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of
But it does almost the same thing as skimming,
yeah.
because all like skimming is like just the slow version of traveling. Well, no, Rand does use it after Patton Fane interacts with Masha Shin, because Rand does it like a couple times just because he wants time to think before he gets to wherever he's going, and he doesn't want to be, you know, bothered by being around a ton of people. Like there's still maidens that are riding with him, riding his platform, if you will. But there's also like a limit to how much he can do, because he skims the military force he takes into Ilion along with Matt and Avienda. They skim all the way
Yeah, yeah,
there.
yeah.
And he can only make like it was like 100 by 100 or something. I
Yeah,
forgot the
yeah,
exact
yeah, yeah.
measurement, but it was like 100 by 100 paces skimming platform. So they had to be very careful at who they chose to go with them. Um, but I don't. Because if they knew how to travel in the Age of Legends, it's presumable that the ways were created inspired by portal stones using the same like ideology as
Yeah.
skimming. But then, so can Loyal read the guide stones so well because the Ogier had to make the guide stones? Because how do you point to a destination if that Waygate doesn't exist?
See, that's the other point. That's the other thing, is that when you use a talisman of growing and it grows up a Waygate, does the stone path appear to the nearest guiding
Maybe
and
that's part of the
platform?
growing.
It's part of the growing.
Maybe it grows in the ways to the nearest platform.
See, that's what
You know?
I would think. I would look at it almost like the internet, right? Where you've got, if I want to go from Shanghai to Stedding, so oh my god, Stedding Shanghai to Stedding Sofu. Good lord. The Waygate, which is going to be my router, and then through the ways or through the internet, which is going to be just a series of routing points and switching points, to the router on the other end, which is Sofu. And if we're talking about how that's grown, my guess would be that the first Waygate had to have been grown in conjunction with another Waygate.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had to grow two, connect those together to establish rules of this space-time pocket, and then from then on, every time the another Waygate was added, it could just grow into the increasingly intricate network. Now, as far as the guidings, I always sort of assumed that someone had come in and explored the ways and just mapped it out and wrote on it.
Yeah.
But that's a good question there.
Oh, okay. So the ways, in addition to having used to been well lit by like an artificial sun set in cloudless skies and having food-bearing trees on the islands, which are where they do the large slab of stone that the covered in an Ogier script called a guiding. So the Ogier definitely did all of the guiding stones. The ways also have had traps laid in them for shadow spawn. So what if that could very easily be how Mosh and Shin grew, like corrupted traps.
Yeah. a guardian or a guide of some kind. Yeah.
Which does, honestly, that makes me like the way the TV show depicts Mosh and Shin, because it could just be like a coalescence of dozens to hundreds to thousands of corrupted traps that now, instead of just seeking to devour Shadow Spawn, seek to devour anything in the ways, anything that comes in the ways.
It could also explain why it has a voice too. If it was a guardian or a guide, it would need a way of communicating with people. As it got corrupt, though, and as it sought more evil things, it would make sense that it would just start talking about the different ways in which it would choose or delight in killing you, which is kind of creepy.
Yeah.
I like it. I like it. What do you guys think about the ways, specifically the corruption on the ways? Is this something that can be healed? Is it something that should be healed? Like I said, for me, for my kind of my final thoughts on this, I really think that the cleansing of the ways would be much more difficult than the cleansing of Saidin. And so therefore it's probably not a practical thing to do. But the reason I think it's much more difficult is that you've got the taint woven into the very fabric of this pocket dimension. And as such, it's just kind of maybe that's incredibly more simple than Saidin. But that's just one of those things that I kind of think about it and I go, that's an interesting thought. But as far as actually cleansing of the ways, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think Mach and Shin, I like the new theory we've come up with that Mach and Shin was originally a guardian or a guide. I really like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep that one. That's ours.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely. I still like it more than the coalescence of corrupted traps. Like,
yeah.
It makes me think of like
and that's
colloquialism for what traps are.
So,
no, I like it. I think that the cleansing and repairing of the ways is something that could be done. It would be an even more massive undertaking without the Choden Call, I think, just by the nature of what it is. How expansive it is, because you would have to strain the residuals of the taint away from what existed there, and then hope that the good parts of what once existed are just hidden under the taint and come back, like the artificial sun or whatever. But it's kind of like how insurance companies value cars, and this car was in a 7-car wreck and it flipped 38 times. There is no universe in which the insurance company doesn't look at the ways and go, yeah, that fucking thing's totaled. Just scrap it and get a new one. I think that's what'll happen, partially because of the effort it would take, the risk involved, and just how obsolete for the third age moving into the fourth age that the ways would be. I mean, Rand figures out skimming, or is taught skimming, and it's not very long after that like nobody else skims. I don't think we see anybody else skimming. Especially not once they use traveling. Even he only uses it as like, I want to go from point A to point B, but I want a little bit of time to think.
Right.
So it's like he only wants it when he deliberately wants to go slower. It's like choosing to go via train versus on a plane. Like, I still want to get from point A to point B, but I want time to think in between.
Yeah.
But I think it just will fall by the wayside. Pun. And just continue to crumble and disappear on its own. Wait, hold on. What if, and this is just a theory to leave us on, what if the portal stones are the remainders of waygates with no ways in between, and that's why the link between each one can be guided and is so fucky and weird to deal with.
I don't know. The functionality is different in the books.
Yeah, but imagine if you took the ways and you took away the paths in between the waygates, and you want it to go to another location. If you opened it and there was no path to walk on, could it just kind of short circuit that there's like a direct connection somewhere? But because the paths don't exist, the travel or the transport is very risky, imperfect. There's nothing to guide the travel. So you can very easily take longer or shorter.
Yeah, I see where you're going with that. I'm still not sure I like it for one reason, and that's that the portal stones can travel to many different locations and worlds. The waygates only travel into a pocket dimension and back into the same world. Now, if you're saying that now they're unhinged because they don't have an anchor into that one pocket dimension,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it only works. The waves work the way they work because they create a physical link to it where you just walk across. Whereas the portal
okay.
stones, you have to have like the mental force and fortitude to force the direction you want to go, and you have to understand how it works. So what if the channelers being like, okay, we want you to be able to travel like you can with portal stones, but you guys can't channel. So what if we made something like the portal stones where you didn't have to channel, just the paths were there for you to walk on?
Interesting.
So like the ways are just portal stones with guide rails. It also makes sense as to how, like, why the portal stones themselves seem to be so semi unnatural but sturdy, is if they
Yeah.
were tree song kind of stone. I don't know that it
Well, yeah,
holds any
because
water, but I like
one
the
of them was
idea.
because they talked about trying to move one of them and it resisted being moved.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's the more you talk, the more I like it.
That could be a cool like explanation for the origin of the portal stone artifacts. But then of course comes the question, where does the feedback stop? Because if the portal stones inspired the ways and then the ways became the portal stones, which came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's a thought, maybe a thought-provoking idea for anybody that's listening or watching here and made it to the end of the episode of our ramblings. Which came first, the portal stones or the waygates? Are portal stones just defunct remnants of old waygates? I mean,
Yes. No.
I don't know.
No.
I kind of
Yes.
like it. I
Yes.
kind of
No.
like it.
Yes. No.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, I'm biased because like it popped in my brain and I was like, "Ooh, cool idea." So that happens all the time.
I
But
do like that. I do like that.
yeah, explaining the unexplained, only with metaphysics here at Black Tower Podcast. Quickly, but as we're ending this thing out, just so everybody knows, we are in full planning mode for the Gathering Madness. I think we've said it before, but just in case you didn't hear it then, or we didn't say it before, there is a date change. It will not be the weekend of October 18th. It will be the weekend of October 25th through the 27th. That is the last full weekend, or just the last weekend in October of 2024 in Charleston, South Carolina. We're currently planning what we're going to do about lodging, and we have some ideas for that. We're still planning that. Some events, some things to go and do that may or may not involve some very much Ogier inspiring areas, as well as a certain desk area. We'll see. We'll see. We're working on all that. Yeah, no, I'm really excited for how this turns out. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think. I mean, I always think it's going to be a lot of fun. But we are in full planning mode, and hopefully, we should have a fair amount of information out and ready within the next week and a half, 2 weeks. I think, because there's some decisions we got to make within the next week.
Yeah.
So give us about 2 weeks. We're recording this on July 30th of 24. So I would say by second week of August, there'll probably be plenty of stuff out. If you're not already, go to blacktowerpod.com so that you can join our Discord, because we announce stuff generally to our Discord first. And if you really want more inside scoops, whether it's in a pre-recording or in, I don't know, this little thing we call Patreon chat, where we hop in and chat with patrons after the episode. If you're listening live right now, you probably want to be there after this episode. We talk about what's going on behind the scenes, and we give out some whatever information we kind of can. So if you can support us that way, we very much appreciate it, and hopefully you get your value back. You can ask our other patrons if they think it's worth the money eventually or not, or if they're just like, these bearded weirdos just need all the help they can get, which is valid and fucking true.
It is true, though. We do.
Thank you all so much for tolerating our weird, wacky theories. Sometimes our moments where we probably make you scream at your radio, like, that's not how it works. But hopefully you have fun. For all of us here at the Black Tower Podcast, thank you again. We love you. I have been Andrew, your Bajan Mahale, who definitely insists that the Waygates and Portal Stones are the same things now.
And
now
I
whenever
have
somebody
been
goes like, do you like
Sorvon.
Waygates or Portal Stones? And we're like, they're the same fucking thing.
They're the same fucking thing.
Cool.
And I've been your Sorvon Mahale by the name of Josh Sticky Wicket to his friends. And we want to thank you for joining us. Thank you for having a great time with us. We appreciate you behaving while we dole out this week's dose of madness. And we hope that wherever you are, you leave here just a little bit more insane than you were when you first got here. From all of us here at the Black Tower.
They call me Sticky Wicket.